All right. Welcome back, class. And again, this is your Philippine Politics and Governance class. So this would be our first week of discussion. For this week, we will be discussing the concepts of politics, governance, and government. So let's walk through to your learning objective for this week. So for this week, class, at the end of the week, it is expected that you will be able to explain the concept, relationship, and importance of politics, governance, and government. Okay, I believe I already saw a lot of great insights in our Google Classroom as I have asked there. What can you say about the saying, politics is a dirty business? I know that some of you, or actually most of you, already agreed to this saying, but let's check no, if this saying is indeed true. Okay, but it is already imperative, class, to check if what's the definition of politics first before answering this question, if you do agree or if you disagree. Okay, so let me define politics. Politics has been said that it is a practical science concerned with the noble action or happiness of the citizens. So, class, politics is not only about elections. Politics is not only about politicians. But as you can see there, class, politics is a practical science that is concerned with the happiness of not only me, not only of the politicians, but also your happiness. Because as Filipino citizens, okay, our politics here would want to solve or to answer our happiness or our noble action. Okay? So let me repeat it. So if you're pertaining to politics, you are referring to a practical science that is concerned with your happiness. Okay? Also, class, it has been said that politics includes the decision making and decision enforcing processes. Most of you actually in our Google Classroom answered that politics is a dirty business. Why? Because politicians tend to be corrupt. Okay? And I cannot blame you for that because politics already includes decision making and decision enforcing. That is why it is quite critical for us to elect leaders who are good. No? So, ito ay tungkol sa tao na mamumuno sa atin. Ito ay tungkol sa tao na gagawa ng desisyon. Ito yung tungkol sa tao na ihahalal natin para ipatupad yung mga prosesong ninanais natin. May isa sa katuparan yung happiness na sinasabi kanina if you will be able to elect no, deserving people who will act as the decision maker and decision enforcer. Okay? So as a summary for politics, politics is concerned about your happiness. But in order for us to attain such happiness, decision enforcer. Commonly, these are persons who are running for public office. Okay? So, sir, what does politics involve? Okay, so first, if you're talking about politics, we are referring to an official allocation of things. Nag-allocate daw, naglalagay daw ng mga bagay, naglalagay daw ng mga aktibidad, naglalagay daw ng mga ideya na kung saan binibigyang halaga daw ng komunidad or ng lipunan. So, kapag meron daw pag-allocate or pagbibigay ng mga bagay, aktibidad or idea na kung saan tinuturing ito ng lipunan na mahalaga, automatic, no? Ito ay kasali sa politika. Ano pa? So, also, class, politics involves a determination by the government of who should get what, benefits, when, and how. So, ano ibig sabihin nito? So, if pinag-uusapan natin yung politics, okay, so there would be a determination by the government. Sino daw ang makakakuha ng mga ganitong benepisyo? Kailan makukuha yung benepisyo na yun at paano? So, ano yung magandang example niyan? So, if you can still remember, okay, the social amelioration program by the government is actually one great example of this because the government indicates who will receive those. And, di ba, ang sabi nila, SAP beneficiaries will be those people na nawalan ng trabaho or those people na mahihirap. And in that point, the government determined who will get the benefit. So, sir, sila rin po ba nagdidikta kung kailan makuha? Yes. Di ba kaya nga tayo merong schedule at kung paano mo makukuha? Okay? Again, let me repeat it. Politics involve the determination of your government. Again, that would be the government who will decide who will get the benefits, when, and how. Lastly, okay, politics involves an analysis of public issues giving rise to conflict which requires resolution. So class, okay, what I would want you to learn is that hindi porket hindi kayo kasali sa politika or hindi kayo nahalal, ay nangangahulugang hindi na kayo parte ng politika. You will always be part of politics. Why? Because politics involves an analysis of public issues. No? Ito daw ay isang usaping pampubliko. Lahat ng mga bagay na merong kinalaman sa publiko ay merong impact sa iyo bilang isang tao. At dahil nga meron tong impact sa iyo, ang pag-aanalisa or pag-analyze ng isang public issue ay kakailanganin ng masinsinang pag-uusap. Hindi lamang ng mga political leader, kundi pati mo bilang isang mamamayang Pilipino na maapektuhan ng public issue na ito. Okay? So, sir, question. How about government? What is government? So, nalilito kasi kami, sir, if what's the difference between government and governance. So, we will be contrasting the two. Okay? But first, let me define what is a government. So, class, a government is an institution run or by or on behalf of the state, delivering in more or less top-down fashion, like, for example, those public goods of which citizens are presumed to need. So, class, let me repeat it and emphasize that a government is an institution. Let me repeat it. It's an institution, not a process. This institution would actually represent the state. That is why if you call the government or if you are referring to the government, you are definitely referring the state. So say for example, if you are calling the government of the Philippines, it represents the state as a whole. So if the government will decide on some things, okay, it will represent your opinion as a Filipino citizen. Sa madaling salita, kung ano yung gagawin ng gobyerno, no, lahat ng desisyon ng gobyerno ay sumisimbolo sa kung ano yung kagustuhan mo. Kasi yung kapangyarihan ng gobyerno ay nanggagaling sa tao at sila yung representative ng mga tao. At kung ano yung magiging salita nila, definitely yun yung simbolismo ng salita mo. Okay? It has also been stated there that government runs in a less top-down fashion. So meaning, no, mula sa taas, no, pababa. So anong ibig sabihin niyan, 'di ba? Ang magandang example niyan ay yung pagbibigay ng ayuda. Hindi ba nagsisimula ang lahat sa pagbibigay halimbawa ng national government ng budget pababa sa mga local government units? So in that sense, makikita ninyo na yung fashion or yung structure ng pagbibigay ng serbisyo publiko ay nanggagaling sa taas, more or less sa taas, papuntang baba. Okay? And take note, no, na yung sinasabi na fashion dyan ay tungkol sa pagde-deliver ng serbisyo publiko or public service na kung saan kinakailangan ito ng mamamayan. Okay? So, magandang example dyan ngayon yung pagbibigay ng ayuda. Alright. So, sir, if the government is an institution, what is governance? So, let me define governance. Governance is the process. So, unlike the government, governance is a process in which you are dealing with the problems of the society. Okay? So also, governance has been said that it is an exercise of political, economic, and administrative authority in the management of a country's affairs at all levels. So basically, class, if you are doing governance, you are exercising these authorities, whether it's political, economic, or administrative. Okay? And take note that this governance will happen at all levels, be it on a barangay level, municipal level, or in any levels that pertains to the process of the government. Okay? So, lastly, class, I would want you to know that governance involves the application and proper implementation of policies, as well as the continuous monitoring of the organization state. So, if you're doing governance, it's not all about delivering public service, but also ensuring that those persons running the government would actually have a proper implementation of policies, as well as there is monitoring of those persons na nagsasagawa ng mga bagay-bagay sa loob ng gobyerno. So if you're doing governance, it's not all about the external factors, which are presumed to be the citizens or the needs of the citizens, but also internal factors just like those who are part of the organization. Okay. So sir, what does governance involve? All right, so governance involves first, how governments are elected, monitored, and replaced. So if you're talking about governance, you will see there that those things that pertains on the election of a government or an election of an official to the government. Okay? Tungkol daw ito sa paghahalal. Kung sino nga ba yung dapat mamuno pag pinag-usapan natin yung governance. Pinag-usapan din natin dito yung pagbabantay, no? Kung paano po pinapatakbo ang gobyerno. At kasabay nito, no, dahil nga walang gobyerno ang permanente, automatic kapag hindi nagawa ng mga tao yung kanilang hindi nagawa ng mga opisyal yung kanilang nakatakdang gawin in behalf of the people, automatically they can be replaced. Okay? And that would be part of governance. So kung nakikita halimbawa na hindi na effective or hindi na sumasalamin sa kagustuhan ng tao yung isang gobyerno, they can be replaced under governance. Okay? Next, if we're talking about governance, we are also talking about the capacity of the government to effectively formulate and implement sound policies. Sa madaling salita, ito daw yung kakayahan ng gobyerno class na magsagawa at magpatupad ng mga polisiya na hindi lang pang isang tao or pang isang grupo. Ito ay tungkol sa mga polisiya na dapat nararapat para sa lahat or the general welfare. And it must be done for the common good. Sir, what's the common good? Common good class is a situation wherein, no, most or if not all, no, they are most or not all, or yes, so most of, if not all, no, of the citizens' objective for a certain issue. So ito daw yung kakayahan ng gobyerno para magpatupad ng mga polisiya na patas. Ito yung kakayahan ng gobyerno para magbigay ng mga patas na desisyon na makikinabang yung common good or yung karamihan ng tao kung hindi man lahat. Okay? Next, if we're talking about governance, we are also talking about the respect of citizens and the state for the institutions that govern economic and social interactions among them. Sir, ano po yung mga institusyon na ito? Ito yung mga institusyon na binuo para sa iyong kapakanan or sa kapakanan ng Filipino citizens. If you are running a government, okay, governance will always ensure the respect of citizens and the state dun sa mga binuo na institusyon. Ano yung mga institusyon na yan? Maaari yan yung executive department, legislative department, or judiciary department, okay, or judicial department. So those three were the things that are involved in running governance or in pertaining to governance. Okay? So, sir, question, how will we be able to measure good governance? You will be able to measure good governance according to Worldwide Governance Indicators Project or WGI project by these three things. Okay? So first, you can measure good governance by looking into the government selection, monitoring, and replacement. So under the first sphere, you will be able to know it if there is voice and accountability. Ano ibig sabihin niyan? So sabi sa unang pamantayan ng isang mabuting pamamahala, no, kailangan daw ang mga mamamayan ay may kakayahan para magsalita. Kung meron mang maling nagagawa yung gobyerno, dapat meron daw kakayahan ang mga mamamayan para makapagsalita at bukod sa makapagsalita, kaya nilang panagutin yung mga tao na nagkasala ayon sa batas. Okay? Second, kailangan din daw mayroong political stability. Sir, what's political stability? Ito yung capacity ng gobyerno para masustain yung kanilang kapangyarihan at yung kanilang pwesto kahit na marami yung tumutulig sa marahas na pamamaraan. Okay? Dapat daw ang isang gobyernong mabuti sa pamamalakad ay kaya nilang lutasin yung mga usapin ng terorismo at saka karahasan. Okay? Second, if you would want to measure good governance, okay, you must also look into the policy formulation and implementation. So, sir, how will we be able to measure policy formulation and implementation? You may look into the government effectiveness. Okay? So, ano ibig sabihin niya? Effective ba yung pinapatupad ng government? Are they formulating effective ideas and policies? If the answer is yes, definitely that's a check on the second sphere. Also, class, you may check the regulatory quality. No? Paano ba nila nare-regulate yung mga polisiya? Paano nila binabantayan? Paano nila ipinapatupad? Paano nila tinitignan yung mga tao? Sumusunod ba or hindi? Kung na-ensure ng government na merong maayos, no, na regulation when it comes to policies, definitely there's another check for the second sphere. Okay? Ultimately, class, in order for you to have a good governance or in order for you to run good governance in your government, there must be a respect for institutions that govern state-citizen interactions. So, sir, how will we be able to check it? You must check the rule of law. No? Sa bansang ito ba, ang pinapatakbo ay rule of law? Or batas ba ang nasusunod? Or batas ng ilang tao lang? If ang sagot mo ay yung batas mismo ang nasusunod, automatic that's a check. Pero if hindi nasusunod yung batas sa isang bansa, automatic that is a red flag for the third sphere. Okay? Also, class, no, in order for you to ensure that there is a respect for institution, definitely you must look into consideration of the control of corruption. Okay, bakit? Of course, if hindi mo titignan yung corruption or may corruption sa isang gobyerno, automatic yan yung mga tao hindi magtitiwala. No? Kahit sino naman siguro, pag pinagnanakawan ka, no, hindi mo na pagkakatiwalaan yung tao later on. So those are the measures of good governance according to WGI project. So in checking, no, most especially ngayon, dahil kayo ang pag-asa ng bayan, kung titignan niyo yung mga bagay-bagay sa ating gobyerno, no, at kung gusto niyo malaman kung napapatakbo ba ng maayos ng gobyerno yung ating bansa, you must check into these three spheres or three considerations. Okay. All right, so another measures that you may use, class, no, I'll just project this because this is quite similar to our discussion earlier. According to National Statistics Coordination Board Good Governance Index, you may look into consideration these three spheres instead as well. But this is quite similar to the earlier measures. That's why I'll just run this one through, okay? So you may look into political governance, economic governance, and administrative governance. When you say political governance, you may look into two considerations. Okay? First, meron bang kalayaan yung bansa or secured ba yung bansa internally tsaka externally? Pag sinabi mo internally, maayos ba yung mamamayan? Secured ba yung mga tao? Wala bang nag-aalsa? So that's one consideration. External security is a consideration that pertains doon sa pagkakataon na hinahamon ba yung bansa ninyo pagdating sa territory? No? Meron ba mga bansa na nag-i-intimidate sa bansa mo? No? Na kinakamkam yung iyong teritoryo? Kung sagot mo ay yes, no? Most likely kailangan magkaroon ng improvement sa sphere na political governance. Alright? So next, improvement of law enforcement and administration of justice. So law enforcement, you already know that. So that's the execution of the law. Okay? Second, economic governance. When you say economic governance, this would only pertain, class, to the economic resources, no? Pagkain, ayan, no, yung mga bagay na kinakailangan ng tao para hindi magutom, yung kinakailangan nila para mabuhay. So, if lahat ng mga yon ay yun yung titignan mo, you're looking into economic governance. Third, class, administrative governance would actually pertain to the delivery of health, education, and other related services. Okay? So it will also check the transparency and accountability. So sir, what's transparency? Basically, government transparency will pertain to the situation wherein the government, okay, will give you the information that you need as to their services and processes. That is why, class, no, kung mapapansin niyo, yung mga officials natin sa bansa natin, meron silang sinasubmit, no, ng mga documents para makita ninyo kung ano yung nila, yung kanilang assets, liabilities, net worth, which is yung SALN. So sa pagpapakaya ng SALN ng isang official, automatic, class, no, ipinapakita nila na bukas sila for the citizens' scrutinization of their background. Okay? Third, what's accountability? Accountability, class, would pertain to the situation wherein you are making a person or an official responsible for their action. So kapag nagkamali sila, no, meron bang pagkakataon na pag nagkamali yung official, napapanagot sila or naging responsable sila sa naging action nila? If the answer is yes, magkakaroon ka dyan ng check sa administrative governance. Okay? But, alright, so let me summarize those things by the prescriptions of the good citizenship movement. So it will always come down to six, okay? To six parameters, plus on how will you be able to say that a country is exercising or a government is exercising good governance. Okay? First one, transparency of governance. Just like what I mentioned, okay, in order for you to have a transparent government, all of the process and all of those things with regards to public service must be transparent or must be seen by the ordinary citizens. Next, simplicity of procedures.
Simplicity of procedures would pertain to the situation we're in, hindi na nahihirapan yung mamamayan para mag-avail ng mga service. Ano magandang example nito? May good governance daw, class, kapag simple lang ang procedure kapag pumupunta ka sa mga government offices. Mag-a-apply ka ba ng visa? Mag-a-apply ka ba ng passport? Mag-a-apply ka ba halimbawa para sa SSS card? Kapag madali na yung procedure, sabi ni Good Citizenship Movement, there is good governance. Next, responsibility. Responsable ba ang gobyerno mo? If your answer is yes, definitely there's good governance. Fight against corruption, I've mentioned it already. Individual freedom and collective expression. Class, this is quite critical as of the moment, okay? Kasi pag sinabi mong individual freedom, kailangan na exercise mo yung sarili mong karapatan. Pero class, let me remind you that your freedom is not absolute. Meaning, pwede pa siyang malimitahan or the worst, pwede siyang maalis sa iyo. Sir, kailan po maalis yung individual freedom namin? No? Kapag sinabi ng batas na yung ginagawa mo o yung kalayaan mo na yan ay nakaka-apekto or nagbibigay ng inconvenience sa ibang tao, no? Which will result, okay, sa exclusion ng pag-exercise naman ng ibang tao sa kanilang karapatan. So ulitin ko, kapag yung iyong kalayaan ay nakaka-apekto na sa kalayaan ng ibang tao at naapektuhan yung kanilang karapatan bilang parte rin ng lipunan, automatic, no, pwede ka malimitahan sa individual freedom mo. Alright. Next. Okay, so that's independent judicial system. Whenever you say independent judicial system, class, this is a situation wherein yung justice system mo or yung mga mga korte mo, pag nagbibigay sila ng desisyon, so dapat yung desisyon na yun ay patas. Hindi dapat ito na-influensya ng ibang tao. So kapag anong magandang halimbawa niya? Pag yung korte mo halimbawa ay hindi na didiktahan ni presidente, hindi na didiktahan ni senador, pag hindi siya nadidiktahan, no, at gumagawa siya ng desisyon base sa katotohanan at saka sa kanyang sariling pag-unawa sa kaso, automatic merong good governance. Pero kapag nadidiktahan daw ng ibang branch ng government, kagaya ng ehekutibo at saka ng legislatibo, automatic, that is not independent judicial system. That is dependent. Ibig sabihin, nadidiktahan. Merong nagsasabi kung anong dapat gawin, which is unhealthy para sa isang bansa. Alright. So, sir, let me ask you, what is the relationship of politics to governance? So, I've enumerated some of this. So, first one, class, politics are how we feel about the process of governance. Okay? So, governance transcends government to encompass the business sector and the civil society. Definitely, class, if you're pertaining to politics, now this would also encompass your feelings about the process of governance. Pinag-uusapan kasi dito natin yung iyong kasiyahan. Nasisiyahan ka ba sa proseso ng pamamalakad ng isang gobyerno? No? So, masasagot niyan ng politics, okay, at saka ng governance. So, pag pinag-combine yung dalawa, you will be able to answer that. Next, politics talks about governments, institutions, power, order, and the idea of justice. In that sense, class, in order for you to run that government, since yung politika ay pinag-uusapan natin dito ay gobyerno, para makatakbo mo yung gobyerno, kailangan mo ng governance, which is the process. Okay? So, sinabi rin dyan, class, that politics is often described or defined as the art of governance. Ito daw yung sining, ng pagsasagawa ng proseso ng gobyerno, ng pamamahala. So, pag pinag-usapan natin politika, automatic, you can say that it is an art of governance. Alright, sir, what else? Ano pa po yung mga connection po ng politics sa governance? So, pag i-compare mo yung dalawa, mas malawak daw, class, ang politics. Bakit? Kasi nga, pag sinabi mo politics, hindi lang ito tungkol sa pamamahala or eleksyon. Ito ay tungkol sa kasiyahan ng mamamayan. Okay? So, also, class, to study politics, okay, in the essence to study government, or more broadly to study the exercise of authority. So, in order for you to study politics din daw, class, it is essential that you must be able to study the process of governing or the governance. Okay? Kasi hindi mo nga mapag-uusapan yung politika hanggat hindi mo alam kung paano kinokontrol ng mga tao na naluklok yung gobyerno. Okay? So, in that sense, class, that is the relationship of politics to governance. Now, let's go through the relationship of politics to government. So, if we're pertaining to politics, class, as I've mentioned, you are pertaining or you're talking about governments and institutions. At hindi naman lingid sa kaalaman niyo yun. So, pag sinabi natin politika, ang pag-uusapan mo dyan ay tungkol sa gobyerno. Okay? Next. Politics is also the art of government. So kagaya na sinabi kanina, parang yung sinabi ko lang kanina na it's an art of governance. Bakit? Kasi pag ginagawa mo yung politika, automatic, you're talking about government. You're talking about the things that is related to government. Whether it's an exercise of control, no? So, and kagaya na sinabi ko kanina, yung government at governance ay karaniwang combine or pinag-interchange. Ibig sabihin, pinagpapalit. Pag sinabi mong governance, government, karaniwan ang thinking ninyo ay pareho lang. That is why, class, no? Ang relationship ng politics at saka ng government, politics is also can also be said that it is an art of government in which it will require you, no, to study the exercise of control within the society. All right, what else, class? All right, so the conception of politics and government moved beyond the narrow realm of government to what is called as public life or public affairs, class, no? Government can therefore be seen as one of the institutions in governance. So sabi daw, it is not possible to have governance without government. So sinabi niya, no, class, no, it goes beyond the realm of government where if you're conceiving politics. Okay? Hindi lang ito tungkol sa public life or public affairs. Pwede rin maging tungkol sa iyo kasi nga ito ay tungkol sa iyong kasiyahan. Okay? Next. Third, between governance and government, what are their relationships? Okay, so first, governance transcends government to encompass the business sector. Pag nag-uusapan natin yung governance kasi class, it's not just about public service. Pwede kasi natin pag-usapan dito yung private and even business sector. So class, tanggalin nyo na agad sa inyong isipan na yung gobyerno or yung pamamahala ay tungkol lamang sa publiko. No? Meron ding corporate side or business side yung governance. Bakit? In order for us to sustain the needs of the citizens, kailangan din kumita ng gobyerno para merong mapagbigyan or merong makuhanan na pondo para doon sa pangangailangan ng mga mamamayan. Okay? Also, class, it has been said that governance is based on the realization that the government cannot do everything, okay, for the people. So, that in order to survive the state, should not only rely on government but also other sectors. So, pag pinag-usapan natin class ang governance, hindi lang ito dumedepende, kagaya na sinabi ko kanina, sa government. No? Dumedepende rin ito sa ibang sektor ng lipunan. Anong kagaya na ito? Kagaya ng business, ng civil society organizations. Bakit? In order for you, no, class, to sustain your government, you must be able to exercise flexibility when it comes to governance. So, sa madaling salita, ang governance class ay mas malawak compared sa government kasi na-encompass nito or sinasama nito yung pagiging corporate side nito sa pamamahala. So hindi lang ito tungkol sa government but also other sectors of the society. Okay. So class, also governance is important in the public sector or government because they are dealing with the public's money. So hindi naman din sa kaalaman ninyo yun, na pag namamahala ka, automatic meron kang i-handle na pera. At yun yung pera yun. Pera yun ng mamamayan. Saan nakukuha? That is through taxes. Okay? Next. Governance issues also pertain to the ability of government to develop an efficient, effective, and accountable public management process. So, if you're pertaining to governance issue, you are already referring to the development of an efficient processes, no, na magpe-pertain doon sa mga pagkakataon na magre-require ng citizen participation. Nakakakuha ba ito halimbawa o nakakahikayat ba ito ng mga mamamayan para tumulong sa iyo? That is under governance. Okay? So, next class. If you will ask me, sir, what are the importance of those three? So, let's enumerate some. For politics class, of course, you should know what is going on around you and have a say on what is going on. Bakit? Kasi lahat ng mga nangyayari sa paligid natin, automatic apektado ka. No? Pag pinag-usapan natin politika, dahil ito ay tungkol sa iyong kasiyahan, automatic, no, ikaw ay apektado. At para makuha mo yung kasiyahan mo, kailangan merong pakialam. Ngayon pa lang, sinasabi ko sa inyong class that while taking Philippine politics and governance, what I would want to impart to you is civic competence na hindi dapat kayo nagmumukmuk sa bahay wala kayong ginagawa. Bilang mga pag-asa ng bayan, you must be able to say and have a stand on certain issues. Bakit? Later on class, kayo na mag-handle ng mga issue na ito after ng generation namin. Okay? So, Kung hindi nyo alam kung ano yung nangyayari dito or hindi nyo alam kung ano yung nangyayari sa politika, automatic, no? Meron itong magiging epekto sa ating bansa. Lastly, class, the political decisions people make will affect many lives. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, kung wala kayong pakialam sa nangyayari sa politika, automatic, maraming tao ang maapektuhan. At worst, no, ito ay negative effect at hindi positive. Okay? So in order for us to maintain or build a much better society, no, or a more happy or a quality of life class, you must have a stand on certain issues. Bakit? Uulitin ko lang. Because those decisions na ginagawa ng gobyerno ninyo or ng mga taong ninuklok ninyo ay merong epekto lalong-lalo sa mga mamamayan na ordinaryo. Okay? Sir, what is the importance of governance? So let me enumerate some. All right. For governance class, the people, most especially the citizens, will be aware of the need for good governance. Dahil napag-usapan na natin to class, no? Itong pinag-usapan ng pamamahala, malalaman nyo na kailangan natin ng good governance. Kailangan natin ng mabuting pamamahala. Bakit? Kasi sa mabuting pamamahala, lahat tayo makikinabang. Hindi lang tayo, kundi magiging anak din natin or magiging apo natin someday. Okay? Next, Filipino citizens have to know how to fight for their rights by knowing what to expect from Philippine governance. So of course, class, hindi mo may paglalaban kung ano yung kasiyahan mo or yung karapatan mo without knowing kung ano ba yung proseso ng gobyerno, kung ano ba yung pamamahala ng gobyerno at kung ano yung expect mo doon sa kanilang pamamahala. No? Malalaman mo lang yung iyong karapatan at yung mga tunay na mga bagay na merong kinalaman sa iyo bilang mamamayang Pilipino kapag alam mo yung proseso na pamamahala ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas. Next, it will also preserve and strengthen stakeholder confidence. Ano ibig sabihin nito? If you know the concept of governance class, no, kaya natin i-preserve yung tiwala ng tao, no, sa gobyerno. Bakit? Kasi nga, alam natin kung ano yung mabuting pamamahala. Okay? At kung meron ka mabuting pamamahala, mahihikayat mo yung mga tao na tumulong sa gobyerno. At tumulong sa proseso ng pamamahala para sa ating bansa. Next, it will also provide foundation for a high-performing organization. Of course, class, if you know how to do good governance, it will yield to a high-performing organization. No, ano pinapoint out dito? Huwag kayong makukontento sa gobyerno na hindi gumagawa ng maayos. Huwag kayong makontento sa gobyerno na kung saan sinasabi na okay lang yan. Dapat, ang deserve mo bilang mamamayan, at dahil na nag-usapan natin dito ay kasiyahan, no, mag-develop tayo ng high-performing organization. Ano yung high-performing? Ibig sabihin, super, magaling. No? At paano natin magagawa yung magaling na gobyerno na pamamahala? By simply knowing what is governance. Okay? Next, and lastly, it will ensure that the organization is well-placed to respond to a changing external environment. So, di ba sinabi natin, walang ibang permanente dito sa mundo kundi pagbabago. Okay? At dahil nagbabago yung ating lipunan at saka yung ating kapaligiran, automatic, no? Pag alam mo kung ano yung mabuting pamamahala o yung pamamahala class, you will know on how to respond, paano ka mag-a-adjust sa pabago-bagong sitwasyon ng ating lipunan. Okay? Ultimately, class, these are the important things about government. Bakit siya kailangan? Okay? Okay? Alright, so importance of government first. Of course, it will protect your natural right as citizens of our country. Okay? If you know what is government or if you have government, automatic, there is a protection of natural rights. Ano yung natural rights nyo? No? This might include your life, liberty, and property. So, if meron kang government, automatic, this can be ensured. Okay? Or this must be ensured. Next, if you have government, you will be able to create rules. Bakit kailangan ng rules? Of course, in order for you to maintain an order or an orderly society within your country. Okay? Next, it will also protect people from conflicts and to provide law and order. So similar siya sa second. Next, provide support to the most disadvantaged. Of course, class, kaya nandiyan yung government para matulungan natin most especially yung mga mahihirap or yung mga walang kalaban-laban. No? So if you have government, it is expected that they will be providing support to the most disadvantaged. Next, ito yung sinabi ko kanina, no? Ang government din ang magbibigay ng social services para sa mga tao. Tungkol ito halimbawa sa kalusugan, tungkol sa trabaho. So lahat ng yan, government ang may kakayahan para mag-provide sa inyo or magbigay ng tulong sa inyo. Next, government also manages the economy in uncertain economic times. Di ba nga, pansinin ninyo, pag merong delubyo or sakuna, ang ginagawa ng gobyerno, kaya lang magkaroon ng price freeze. Ano yung price freeze? Ang nangyayari doon, no, nililimitahan yung presyo para hindi umangat, para hindi mahirapan yung mga tao. In that sense, we can say that government can manage our economy in those uncertain times. Okay? And most especially, class, no, government makes the big decisions for the nation's future. Kung ano ang ginagawa ng gobyerno ngayon, automatic, that is for our future. Okay? Whether it's positive or negative, who knows? No? Basta ang ginagawa ng government, for sure, yung mga desisyon na malakihan, yung mga desisyon na merong malaking impact sa atin, yan ay mag-shape ng ating future later on. That is why, class, no, before I end this session, I would want to remind everyone that it is important to know these three concepts. Why? Because these concepts will help you to discern on what should we require for our politicians or for our statesmen. Because by knowing these three concepts, you know how will you be able to run the state. Okay? With this, okay, these are my references. If you want to check, you may check this. But let me thank everyone for attending the session for this for these topics, and then I'm also looking forward to your works with regards to our activities, and I hope that you will be having a great day. So as you go along the day, class, I'm wishing you a happy one. All right, have a great one now.